What is up? Pop Daddy here, and we are here at the end of our journey with Scary Stories 3, More Tales to Chill Your Bones. This was released almost 10 years to the date of the first one, but only a month earlier in September of 1991. And let me tell you, for the most part, the stories in this one make it go out with a bang. Now, if you watched the first two videos, you know all about the scoring system, so I'm not even going to go past those. Just lay back, enjoy the show, because here we go. Chapter 1, When Death Arrives. These are all stories that have to do with death, so enjoy. First story, The Appointment. When a young man is walking around downtown, he sees death pointing at him. He runs home to his grandpa and says, "Grandpa, let me hide out in the city. Death won't find me." Grandpa says, "Take my truck, go to the city, and I'll deal with death." Grandpa goes downtown to find death in a small town. The grandson to the big city finds death, says, "Hey, you. My grandson's too young to die." And Death is like, "Oh, I'm sorry, sir. I saw him. I was confused because I have an appointment with him this afternoon in the big city." This one is going right into peak horror. This story starts the book off on a high note and is so good. I really enjoy this story. This is one that I would tell at campfires myself. I have told this one before, and I love this story. The Appointment is peak horror and the best way to start this book. The Bus Stop. When a young man picks up a young woman at a bus stop during a rainy day, they start going out and they realize they like each other. And every day they meet at the bus stop. One day she's not there, so he goes to her house. Her mother answers the door, says, "Oh, she's not here anymore." He goes in, he sees her picture. He's like, "Yeah, that's her." She said, "This was taken before she died, 10 years ago." That's right, they were dead all along. Our cliche is back and it's in full force in chapter 1. I am putting this one in campfire fodder. It is just that type of story. Faster and faster. When two friends find a drum in the woods and start beating on it, they start to hear horses charging and ghosts running for them. When one of them dies, it turns out that there was no drum and no hoof prints. This one I am putting into terrible. There are other ghostly ones in previous books and in this book that are much better. Just delicious. When a man brings home a liver for his wife for dinner, she cooks it for him, but then when she sneaks a piece, she sneaks another piece, and before she knows it, it's all gone. Then she notices that there's a funeral in the church next door, and she realizes that the body might still be out. Later that night, her husband eats the liver and loves it and goes to bed. But as they're lying in bed, guess what happens next? Someone calls out for the liver. That's right, it is our favorite cliche in these books. A person or spirit calling out for their lost body part. As opposed to the other ones, I'm putting this one in peak horror. Out of all the laying in bed, hearing someone calling for you stories, this is by far my favorite. I really enjoy this one. I don't know why, but maybe it's because the suspected, that the wife knew how to not only sneak over to a church, but open up a body and identify which organ was the liver. But this story I just love, and it goes in peak horror. Hello, Kate. When a man is walking to a dance in a neighboring town, he notices someone following him. Why, it's Kate, the girl I danced with many times before. But then he remembers, Kate died. And as he gets there, he's scared. Her ghost approaches him. He doesn't say, "Hello, Kate," he just stands there and the ghost disappears. This one is going in frightfully forgettable. It's not a decent story, and it's forgettable. That's all I got. The Black Dog, not to be confused with The Little Black Dog. This one is about a man who lives in his house, and every night at midnight, a dog runs down the stairs. But when he goes to look for it, there's no dog. I am putting this one in frightfully forgettable. There's nothing there. There's no substance there. It ends on a questionable ending. Footsteps. When a girl hears footsteps in her house, she calls out, but there's no one there. This one is similar to Sounds from the previous book, where you hear sounds in the house, but then it turns out there's nothing there. This one is also going in frightfully forgettable because while Sounds wasn't that good of a story, I would much rather read that one over this one. Like Cat's Eyes. So we started this one with a peak horror. There's a peak horror in the middle, and we're ending on peak horror. When a lady is sitting outside of a room while the doctor tends to her husband, she's so sad for him. She sees a car come down the driveway. She sees men get out, run into the house. She gets scared. Then a second later, they leave the house with a big box. As they drive off, the doctor says her husband died. I love this story. I remember I even told this one to Pop Mama one time when she wanted to hear a scary story. This one is peak horror at its best. Definitely, if you can, seek that one out. Chapter 2, On the Edge. You bought this whole book. You bought your whole chair, but you're only going to need the edge. First story is Bess. When a man goes to a fortune teller, the fortune teller says that his horse will kill him. He realizes his horse is just an old mare and that she couldn't hurt a fly. But still, he gets nervous, so he sells the horse. Years later, he finds out the horse had died, and he's like, well, the horse never killed me. So as he goes out to see its bones, he pats the horse's skull. Rattlesnake jumps out, kills him. This is perfect campfire fodder. It just misses a good scare, but I think this is a perfect campfire fodder story that you should tell at your next campfire. Harold. If the face from the haunted house in the first book isn't the icon for these stories, it's Harold. They even used him for the movie poster in the movie. What happens when two farmhands build a doll that comes to life? You won't like the results. This one is a definite peak horror story. When it comes to stories that people associate with this book, when it comes to images that people associate with this book, Harold is usually one of them. I was at a convention recently, I got a coaster with Harold on it. That's how good this is. It was the only Scary Stories coaster, but still, I got it. Harold is a great story, a slow burn. Even though it's not very long, it still has time to build up. So definitely check this one out. The Dead Hand. This one has to do with marshes and spirits and things that are heard. I put this one in Frightfully Forgettable because, as you might be able to tell, I have no recollection what this one was really about. And even when researching, I was like, oh, that's what it is. It is forgettable. In this roller coaster ride of a chapter in this amusement park of a book, we go from the sort of low in The Dead Hand to the super high in Such Things Happen. This one, when a man is experiencing a streak of bad luck, he thinks a lady might be witching him, and turns out he may be right. I love this story. This one is a definite peak horror for me. I'd probably not say this during my recap, but this might be my favorite story of all the books. Such Things Happen. I'm not going to ruin it for you, but definitely check it out. Chapter 3, Running Wild. This is just one story in this chapter, and it is the Wolf Girl. And as I told you in the beginning of the first one, this long stories don't do it for me. And this one is the only story in this chapter. This one is going to terrible. When a baby girl is kidnapped by wolves and they are raised by one, she acts out like a wolf. I don't care for this story at all. I'm sure that if you feel the same way about these books as I do, it'll be a skip it for you too. 5 Nightmares. This is a book that are all about bad dreams. And first story is The Dream, where a girl has a dream about going to a house where a big white girl tells her to get out of this house. And then she wakes up and she's like, I'm not going to go to that house. I'll go to another house. But the house is just like in her dream. And when the big white girl appears, she realizes it's time to get out. This one I'm putting into scary good because it is such a good story to tell. Also, the big white girl, she was also used in the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark movie. Hey, did you hear about the family that brought home a small dog from Mexico? And then the boy loved the dog, but then it turned out that the dog got sick, and then the vet said, oh, it's not a dog, it's a rat, and it has rabies. Well, that's what Sam's new pet is. This was my first experience to this urban legend of a story, and this one stuck with me back then, and it's still, I still think of it now, and the image in the book looks nothing like a dog or a rat. It's like, the picture's right here, you'll be able to see it. This one's a great campfire fodder one. Like most of the urban legend-based stories, it is perfect for telling others. When a girl and her mother go to Paris on vacation and the mother gets sick and the girl comes back after getting medicine for her and the mother's not there and nobody knows who the girl is and never saw her and her mother, they keep saying, maybe you will remember, which is the title of this story. And man, this is terrible. This is a long one, and this one is kind of mean-spirited also. It turns out that the mother had the plague and that they repainted the room real fast and moved all the furniture around, and they told all the employees not to say anything or they would lose their jobs. Seems like, you might want to warn people about that, but that's just me. The Red Spot. This is another one that spider bites a girl on the cheek, turns into a boil, all of a sudden explodes, spiders come out everywhere. You know the story. It may have happened to a friend of yours. It's going into campfire fodder. Like with the Dream and Harold, this was one that was also featured in the movie. It's still a good story, and it'll still get a good scare out of anyone who's squeamish about bugs. A man is leaving his job at a shopping mall in the middle of the night. A guy comes up and says, "Hey, you want to buy a knife?" And he says, "No, thank you." "Ah, come on." "No, thank you." "Ah, come on." "No, thank you." Finally, he bolts it. In our last story of the chapter, No Thanks, when a man gets approached by a shady knife salesman, he decides that maybe it's not worth the risk and just leaves. This one's actually scary good because as you read the story, the image from the book of the creepy looking man is so creepy. It kicks it up from campfire fodder to scary good. And I think that that is a great image that goes along well with this story. Chapter 4. What is going on here? There is only one story in this book, like with the Wolf Girl one, and it is called The Trouble. Once again, this is a long story. It is a boring story. It is sort of like Amityville Horror-ish, where the house is haunted and they call a detective, they call paranormal investigators, and no one knows what's going on. And then they realize it might be from the teenage son, and it ends with, "It could even happen to you." This one goes into terrible. I cared not for the story. It was long, it was boring. So, The Trouble, you're way too much effort for this short story book. Finally, chapter 5. Ooh. This one, like with the previous two books, these stories are meant to make you laugh, not get scared. And the first one is The Strangers. When two strangers are sitting on a bus, one is reading a book about ghost stories. A guy says, "Hey, you don't really believe those, do you?" And they say, "Maybe I do," as they disappear. This one is going into scary good. It's a nice lighthearted tale. It's a good way to start the chapter. The Hog. When a man starts having a hog following him around, it turns out that it is the inhabited by the spirit of his old high school girlfriend. This one is definitely a frightfully forgettable. Every single time I revisit this book, this is one story that I have no memory of. And like I said while watching the audiobooks, this was another one that I had no memory of. Not that funny either, more sad than funny. When a man sees this giant monster form and float and start to chase him, he runs and runs till he runs out of breath. And then the alien taps on him and says, "Is something wrong?" This one's going in scary good. I like it. Like this one probably it'll get a chuckle out of kids if you tell them, and it's perfect for your little Halloween horror story collection. So there's something wrong with scary good. It's him. A lady gets fed up with her husband, then decides to kill him. Then later, when she's relaxing on her front porch, she hears, "Who's going to follow me home?" And you know what? It's one of those, hey, they're resting or asleep, and someone from beyond the grave calls out for them. They are seriously ending the book with this. There's after 5 or 6 stories, and this one, if it weren't for the voice in the previous book, this would be the worst of them. This one is frightfully forgettable, though, but we started the first book with this one, and we're getting near the end of the last book with this cliche. So it's him, frightfully forgettable. Next story is spelled Thup, but according to the audiobook, it's pronounced like, which I believe is just an excuse to tell kids to make that noise. Girl wakes up in the middle of the night, sees a spirit sitting on the edge of her bed or on her dresser, making that noise, and she can't sleep. That's the story, and it's frightfully forgettable. Hey, do you remember the Hearst song from the first book, but wish it wasn't as long and ended early? Well, guess what? You May Be Next is the ending of this book, and it isn't terrible. It's the same song as the Hearst song, but it ends early and it cuts most of the lyrics out, and it acts like it's its own story. This one, terrible, and also it's a terrible way to end this book. This book started strong, but did not land the finish. So that's it. That is the end of this book. This book had the most peak horror stories out of any book. My least favorite story was probably, maybe you will remember. My favorite is definitely Such Things Happen. That, and like I said, that is my favorite of all these books. I love that story so much, and I don't know why. Now, are your picks the same as mine? Are yours different than mine? Please let me know in the comments. Please like and subscribe. Also, tell me what you think. If you got this far, I might be either combining all three of the videos into one mega video or just doing a small retrospective. And I thank you all. I also, part of that retrospective, I will be reviewing the movie and I will be giving my thoughts on it. Please share also. I thank you for everything. Thank you for staying with me. These videos took a lot of editing and a lot of time, and I really hope you enjoy them. And, like, request some things in the comments. We got Thanksgiving and Christmas coming up, and I can't wait to get some reviews on for that. As a father, it is hard to find the time to do more reviews now. Definitely hard to see movies in the movie theater. We saw The Nun 2 the other day because it was our anniversary. I thought it was okay. But thank you for watching. Leave your comments below, and I will see you soon. Peace.